Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. It's called Another Brain Art. I have actually just recently rebranded it. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted it to be, and I have an awesome guy who helped me think of this title and some of the other stuff for it. Anyway, for those who have never been here before, and that's probably most people because it's a very small channel, my name is Sheila. I am an artist. I am actually very eclectic. I've always felt like I had to find my own style. I had to, do all this other stuff that would just make me somehow stand out as doing one thing. Thing is, I'm not a one thing kind of person. I like to do art. I love watercolors. They're my main thing. And I also like to do, jewelry. Shrinky dinks, believe it or not. Paper beads, stuff made of coloring books. I do have my whole line of coloring books. I make coloring pages. I'm going to keep all of that under Sheila Dow Art, which is where it is listed on Etsy. And everything else is probably going to fall under this, Another Brain Art. And you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and show you one of my processes while I'm doing this. I do hope that this is one of my last two videos with kind of crappy lighting. I'm trying really hard to step up my game. I really want YouTube to actually be something. I watch a lot of art YouTube. I love all the different artists that I see. It's inspiring, and who knows, maybe I can help inspire other people to try things. I don't do things the way everyone else does. I feel around and figure out what looks good to me. And almost all the time when I'm doing a painting, I absolutely hate it while I'm working on it. I can't stand how it looks. You can see on this one too, I actually did the background. It's all in different watercolors. Used salt for a lot of it. I covered her with, just totally forgot what it's called. Wow. This is what happens when you get nervous for a second. And I'm not used to talking in front of people because I'm very introverted, because that's what artists often are. I did masking fluid, and it is Winsor & Newton medium art masking fluid. Anyway, so I just covered her with that to help protect some of her and some of her wings, but obviously not all of the wing. I did a mix of different greens that I mixed up ages ago and tilted the page so some of it would run down and all that. And then this is where I'm going back in, and I'm actually painting on her skin. Normally when I make a piece, I don't really have a plan. That's just how I work. Again, another reason that Another Brain Art kind of works for me. I just come up with stuff and then I want to try it. So, what you're going to be expecting on this particular channel, stuff to see with all the rebranding, is you'll have my watercolor paintings, my mixed media stuff. I do plan to share that. I also plan to share some of my different sketchbooks from the past, different reviews of some of the products. I'm sure a lot of you have seen product reviews on YouTube for other people, but I'm probably going to be a little bit different than them because, again, I like things that a lot of other people don't. When people look for watercolors, some of them want the nice smooth transitions and things. I don't. I like some of it to be smooth, obviously, for skin. But when it comes to a background, I want the blooming color. I want my salt to be attracted to it and to pull it in. I want cauliflower looks to it. I want all the texture. And that's the kind of watercolors I'm going to go for. I also love metallics. So you'll probably see me use a lot of metallics now. I used to not, but now I'm really getting into them. So I'm trying different watercolor sets with metallics. I'm trying out different ink sets. Sometimes my view changes when I use them, so I would love to hear if you have other recommendations of products to try. I don't always get to get a lot because art hasn't been my full-time thing. I do a day job. I live in Colorado, and in Colorado it's gorgeous. So I also hope to show like hike and paint or hike and sketch, urban art. I want to try that. I haven't yet. So if I can find like a travel set, something like that. I really want to bring all of this stuff to you. I want to bring my own weird twist on it. You are going to see a lot of mixes of different things here. I am a 45-year-old artist, sorry, and like I said, I've been creating art actually since about, well, technically since I was in the 2nd grade, but more seriously, I started into this stuff when I was about 15. I loved, charcoals. I moved into watercolor paints probably not too long around then because I started off on watercolor pencils. I do like watercolor pencils. I don't use them very much. Mostly here I'm using just a very basic set of watercolor paints, and I think this one, like I said, it's a mix of tube paints I had, which I think were Winsor & Newton, that I put into a dish basically and mixed my own colors. That's where they got the main green. And I also have a Grumbacher set, and I think that's how you say it. Maybe probably should look up pronunciations before I use them. But it is just a basic pan set that I've had for a number of years. So that's the primary stuff I'm using on this. And I also have, I have some unnamed sets that I got pretty cheap, but I'm really wanting to transition into more professional paints. So I will be using those more and trying more as I go. I may get tube colors, they're my favorite, and I may get them slowly over time because they're also not cheap. But you can kind of see here, and I know I'm not really narrating the painting process, but I started adding in different kinds of layers, and I go back as it dries and I add in more and some texturing. I also need new brushes because I have not always been easy on my brushes. It's not about leaving them in water, that wasn't the thing. It's mushing the tips for too much texture, so that's not always good for them. So I need more brushes, and I have like a set that's on the way just because I've killed a lot of mine. And I'm going to go ahead in here, I'm just, like I said again, layering, texturing, bringing in some of the detail. I had a whole section around her face that really needed to be fixed from doing the background. I also had all this section that's right below her neck that really needed some help, and like with her collar type thing. With most of her clothing isn't really clothing, it's actually part of her body because she is a dryad. And I really love big hair and flowing hair and the texturing there. So just finding the colors, again, I didn't plan this piece at all. I had no plan for the eyes, no plan for the skin. You get the picture. But watercolor is still my baby. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. I really suck at acrylics, although I may try them at some point just so, if nothing else, I can bring you comedy relief. And yeah, that's a lot of what you're going to see. I do hope that the quality will improve. They say not to just wait until you have all the perfect gear and all the perfect this and that. But as you can see here, I had a lot of problem with light. I live in a very dark home. Not a lot of sunlight from windows and things like that. We kind of have a cave going. Part of that's because we don't have a full daytime nighttime schedule, so the house has to be dark at times, and we have really yellow light lamps. That's what he tends to prefer. Not a lot of daylight coloring, and for me, I just don't have a lot of the lighting yet. Hopefully that's going to be fixed soon. I really want to get that. I do think that that's impacting the quality of my camera. You're going to find in this video, I actually use two cameras. I use my Canon, I have an SX420, and I also have my phone. And my phone is an LG G5. But when you don't have good lighting, you don't get the best results, you don't get the best detail. On this one I'm also using it's like a basic standard gooseneck clamp. It's actually plastic, and I'll try to link it below, but the biggest issue I have with that one is that there's a lot of shake. My table is not 100% stable. I do move it as I'm going. I'm not a light hand, and you're going to see that a lot. with this. Okay, and at this point, I'm just going in, I'm going to add some more watercolor to her bodice. I did get a little distracted. I actually had to pause, so I'm not sure quite where I was. But this time I'm going in again with more of that mix. And this is a mix of like an olive deep green with like an indigo blue. That's how I kind of brought this in. Again, the lighting really kind of throws this off. And you'll see I have all this stuff taped. And I'm just using basic blue painter's tape. And this is I think it's the plein air Canson watercolor boards that I'm using. So they're really thick. There is a little bit of warping whenever you're in the middle of painting, but it seems to dry decently flat. And I kind of really like it. It's a really good texture. It's got a little bit of texture, but it's mostly kind of smooth, but not quite like hot press. So if you've ever tried hot press versus cold press, you'll know the cold press usually has more of that texture. And here I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix little bits of this that I left out somehow in painting her. Don't even know how I did that, but that's what I was doing here. And you can see the colors that I mixed in my little pan to the left. And that's also from tube paints, and I can't remember if they're Winsor Newton or something else now. I may have to look that up because I don't remember. I don't know about other artists, but again, I am chaos. So when I use stuff, it is literally whatever I happen to have or I've gathered over time. I have had some of my art supplies since the 90s. My watercolor pencils I got in the 90s. A lot of the other stuff I've used years ago when I was painting fairy cats. A lot of my art is going to be available as originals. They will also be available as prints. I'm getting a lot of prints done of different papers and things like that available for US and Canada. I am still looking for a good print source for outside the US and Canada. I really don't have the room to do a lot of stock, but I am going to do some embellished prints. They're going to have like gold and stuff added to them. I'm going to list those on my Etsy shop. Again, I will have two Etsys. I will have Sheila Dow Art, which is going to be coloring, and I will be slowly transitioning everything else over to Another Brain Art on Etsy, and that's where you'll find my actual art. And how many times can I say art? You know, stuff like the shrink ink jewelry, the paper bead jewelry. You know, some of those I do watercolor paper beads. I will also eventually do tutorials for some of that for everybody. That's why this channel is like it is. It is because all my life, at least since I became an adult working on this, I have been told that I have to dial all of my art down to something specific. You need to have a style. You need to have like one thing that you do. But I get really bored if all I do are dragons and all I do are fairies and everything is pretty. I like weird art. I will also be doing artist reviews. I will be happy to share some of my favorite artists with you. I will be doing trying to do some of the different events. I will tell you, I totally missed out on Mermaid. I did like one mermaid pig, and that was it. I don't do a lot of mermaids to begin with. June coming up, we have Junicorn. I really haven't drawn any unicorns much since I was a teenager. I loved them and I collected them, and my whole room was unicorns back then. Girls had things on their walls like Menudo and all these different boy bands and New Kids on the Block and NSYNC. I had kittens and unicorns, so I've never really ran with the crowd, and I don't really plan to start because it's not working for me to keep trying to narrow myself into something, and it makes me unhappy. And if you're unhappy, you don't create. We are currently in, it's May 25th, 2020 right now. Everybody is dealing with a lot of stress. We have COVID-19. I'm not any different that way. My job, my day job, is doing customer service or customer support. And I do love helping people, but everybody is anxious. and that is definitely coming into the calls and how everybody is treating each other. And that is adding a lot of stress. So for about almost 2 months, I didn't create anything. I got to the point where I actually wanted to see a counselor because my anxiety was just stopping me from doing anything. And then one of her things is doing art therapy. So you're going to end up seeing a little bit more freedom in some of my art that's coming up. I will still create fantasy creatures like her. I do have a couple of drawings that I need to turn into coloring pages. But I also am doing much more free stuff where you just figure it out based on what's on the page. So you're going to see that too. And I'll even share kind of how I do that. Obviously, I don't want everyone doing the same thing I do because it's kind of my thing. But make things your own. We have tutorials for a reason. We watch other artists for inspiration. Here, I totally picked the wrong color of green. It's like, what were you thinking? It doesn't fit. And then I spent a lot of the painting trying to fix it. But this green is the one in her collar, her little neck tendril things, and I just did not like it. I'm going to add a bit more shadowing here. Hopefully, I'll also do some vlogs, and I'll do kind of like I'm doing right now, where I do a mix of, hey, this is what's going on with art, or I pick a topic and I talk about the topic. I want the channel to be fun. I want the quality to be better. I want people to actually want to come back. If you want to look forward to seeing something different as I grow and I figure out what I'm doing, then please come back. Please do return. My future plans are eventually to do Patreon again, but not like I did before. It's going to be just a basic, maybe a drawing a month kind of thing. Drawing as in a contest. You win some kind of prize. Or bi-monthly. Whatever will not put extra stress on me, because life is stressful enough. I'm just still adding detail. Sorry that this one was so long. This is 8 hours of painting condensed into 22 minutes of video. And it's not even 22 minutes because there's an intro and an outro. So yeah, that's what I'm sharing with you. If you have questions, you want me to try to do something on camera, my original plan is to try to do a video per week or bi-weekly at the latest. Life gets in the way. I definitely need to be a bit more domestic. I need to clean house a bit more. All the basic stuff that some of us end up putting off because we're doing a day job and we're trying to do art and we're trying to accomplish, saving the whole world. Here I'm going to go ahead and try to correct some of that green. I know I'm rambling a little bit. Sorry. Right in here I'm going to go in with my polychromos. You can get polychromos on Amazon. That was actually a birthday gift to myself at one point. I ended up getting the polychromos because they were on massive sale. And I really wanted some professional pencils. I don't really use Prismacolors, but I like oil pencils a lot more. And here, whether it is my Prismacolor set or my polychromo set, I use those blues, those little aqua blues, like crazy. My primary colors I use are pretty much aqua blue, maybe some indigo, and olive green. I also sometimes dabble in purple. But those are my thing. With my polychromos, what I did is I took this scent-free Gamsol. It's by Gamblin. It's the Artist Oil Colors thing, and it's odorless, mineral spirits, and I use that to blend them. That way they're layered in, and then I'm using that, and I love just looking at the shine of the liquid for a second, and then it just goes away. But I use that to just kind of blend in those pencils, bring some of the blue down into the artwork. Whenever you're painting, things don't always come out the way you want when you're starting. As you can tell, my stuff around her face was not blended well. It gave me a lot of trouble. I started trying to use pencils to correct it after paint wasn't doing it. And just try to mesh your colors throughout. If you have the chance to, try to bring in like whatever you're using on the hair, try to blend it in somewhere else in the body. I finally decided in this one, if I couldn't fix it, I was going to do something a little different. I decided to make like a line of clouded paint across the page. I also did nothing with this white bar before, so I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. So I added the green paint there, and then I started going in with a number 2, like a 02 micron pen, and I just started adding some lines and details. I am not a great inker. My hands get shaky, but I'm just going to add a lot of details, bring out a little bit of pop to these colors, to the tendrils, so I can just separate them out from the watercolor. That's why I do mixed media. And that's what you're seeing here, is just doing a bit of detail lining work. I did this throughout, but I tried not to line everything. The whole point is to make things stand out that aren't standing out properly, but not to make it look like a coloring page. You don't want everything lined. And that's what you see me doing here. Just make the hair stand out. Make the ear gill thing stand out, and her wings. You know, just add a little bit of pop to the body so that you can tell what is what and where. Added that to some of the wraps around her arms. I do love the splotching on her skin. I love the texture. Again, I don't blend a lot. I want to bring that in. I am hard on my paintbrushes because of it. Basically, right after this, my camera died, and I'm going to do some Winsor & Newton Gold, but I lost a lot of it. I spilled some of the paint. I made it blend in. So I'm just going to share you the final piece with you, and you can see some of that shimmer. And I just want to thank you all for joining me. I do look forward to doing better videos and getting things all set up and, you know, a bit more professional. I do want you to look for me if you want on Instagram. You can check me out on Etsy. I thank you all for just being here. And if you like this, or you just want to see where I go with this, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you want notifications, but I do thank you so much for joining me here today. See you next time.